Hi everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying a lovely day. In this following lecture video, I want to talk to you guys regarding face tracking and how you can improve your face tracking as a VTuber. So just sit back, relax, and let this Kana do some talking. And I will also say as well, I'll be leaving some resources in the description below if you want some more information regarding face tracking and some other stuff that you need to know. With that being said, the most common methods of face tracking for VTubers are webcam, iPhone, and Android. Now, I can go on about the different face tracking methods such as, utilizing faceware, face good, or cubic motion, but those are more for companies than indie VTubers. They're overly expensive and they're just not really in the virtual production department. So yeah, as much as I like to talk about different face tracking, we're going to keep it simple to the ones that most VTubers use, and also ones that you can actually be able to use as like a VTuber, So webcam, iPhone, Android. For webcam, we have 3 different tracking styles, or otherwise, training data when it comes to how the webcam interprets your face for face tracking are OpenCFace, MediaPipe, and RTX tracking. OpenCFace is created by Emiliana, MediaPipe is created by Google, and RTX tracking is created by NVIDIA. OpenCFace is definitely really nice if you want to keep the most simple face tracking. Now, you could also, if you are, a more technical person, you can, of course, map the ARKit Blendshapes to OpenCFace. In fact, there was an old demo video in Deet's Discord server that Emiliana had regarding an experiment regarding mapping the ARKit Blendshapes to OpenCFace, but again, it hasn't been implemented to VCFace, nor is it going to probably happen. I apologize for saying that, but, I will say, though, if you are a more tech-savvy person, though, you could be able to do this on your end, but at the same time, if you're just a simple VTuber, obviously we're not going to get into the whole technical stuff with training data and all that, or tracking points. But either way, just know that if you want to have the most simple face tracking, just stick with OpenCFace, or just stick with VCFace, because it's just very simple when it comes to the webcam tracking. Very simple. You can also use the expression detection that VCFace has, and you can add some more expressiveness to your OpenCFace setup. I've seen some people who have been utilizing their expressions but also utilizing OpenCFace, and while some may argue that the face tracking on OpenCFace can be stiff, I've seen some people that were able to use OpenCFace to its full potential and do some pretty nice expressiveness while still staying simple. Sorry for my stuttering. But anyways, besides that though, MediaPipe is another option that nowadays most VTubers who are going webcam solution are actually using. MediaPipe can actually be used in Vnyan or Warudo. Now, MediaPipe, while it's the most expressive face tracking for webcam, it's also the easily most drunken one. Now, if you've seen the raw data for MediaPipe, the thing is that MediaPipe is experimental, so if you've seen the raw data of MediaPipe, you can't completely blink, the mouth pucker is too sensitive, there's no cheek puff, no tongue out, and also the eye movements are kinda so it's like, again, it's experimental, it's still being worked on according to what MediaPipe devs have been talking about. It was marked experimental for a reason, but we are able to use it as for VTubing. I don't know when they'll ever release a new version that will improve the tracking quality. It may take a couple years, we'll never know. Especially with the rise of AI, I'm pretty sure now mocap AI is getting more crazier, but let's not talk about AI stuff here. All I can say, though, is that with MediaPipe, you heavily need to edit your blend shapes and, the blend shape settings in the tracking program in order to, correct the derpiness that MediaPipe can give you. So if you're using Vnyan or Warudo, you have the the settings to do that. Now, if you're wondering about how to get the cheek puff and tongue out working with MediaPipe, you're gonna have to use something called expression conditions. So I made tutorials regarding how to do that. I will leave in the description for both Vnyan and Warudo. Besides that, though, We also have RTX tracking as well. RTX tracking, while it may not be as expressive as MediaPipe, is also probably the most stable in terms of face tracking while having some expressiveness on the side. So I'd say it'll go from OpenC face, RTX tracking, then MediaPipe. Again, really depends, honestly, like what your preference in tracking style is. Again, I've seen people utilize OpenC face or VC face, and they're able to make the most expressive characters just by OpenC face alone. And then I've seen some people who also are very expressive when it comes to just MediaPipe and so on, or they can make the tracking very stiff. You know, there's depending on how you utilize your settings in your VTuber program, you could do like a lot of stuff, you know. And the same thing with RTX tracking, you can't do cheek puff and you can't do tongue out, so keep that in mind. You're gonna have to use expression conditions to fake it, or use a like a toggle or something, like a hotkey, you know. Maybe it's only like probably maybe in the future, you know, it may be added, but again, may take years for that to ever happen. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have the time frame for that, you know. Besides that, though, the next thing, of course, is iPhones. iPhones are the most recommended face tracking for VTubing. It has the best stability and the most best expression. Oh yeah, and like I said earlier with Webcam for RTX and MediaPipe, they only use 50 of the Blendshape. I think RTX tracking, I think they use a little less Blendshapes. I think, but either way, iPhone utilizes the 52 ARKit Blendshape to it, you know, to their highest potential. And again, I'd say there are still some nitpick things that you can argue about, like, oh, you can't do individual eyebrow blink, you know, eyebrow movement, or you can't like shrug your lip more crazily or realistically, you know. So there are some limitations, of course, with iPhone, and you know, like I said, as much as I like to go to the other industry tracking methods, they're just too expensive. There's no workflow with the current VTuber program. It's just not it. So all I can say though is that iPhone, you know, depending on what your tracking goals are, iPhone's probably the best. Now, you don't need to get an iPhone 13. I personally have the iPhone 13 mainly due to like making sure my battery lasts much longer, and also I like the processing speed on an iPhone 13. But you don't need to get an iPhone 13 in order to have the best face tracking. You can actually just get an iPhone XR, which is the cheapest iPhone you can get that has the Face ID support, and you can be able to get really nice face tracking. The reason why I don't recommend iPhone X is because you're a bit more limited, because iPhone X was kind of like the experimental Face ID. So it's, it's still like, it was like old, and stuff, so it has limits. iPhone XR has a newer one, and then all the other iPhones kind of copy each other. So at best, just get an iPhone XR. Most people who tell me they got an iPhone, they tend to go for iPhone 10 or 11. Those are the most common choices I hear. But again, it really depends on you. As long as you get a Face ID compatible iPhone, I'll leave in the description below regarding a list of, Face ID compatible iPhones. You can also use an iPad as well, but just make sure it is a compatible one so you can utilize, you can utilize the iPad if you want. I will also, I'll say this as well. If you definitely want to have, let's say, more range, iPads are probably better in terms of range. If you want to have more range with your iPhone, then just turn it horizontally? Yeah, turn it horizontally, and you can actually be able to have most range. But of course, if you're going to move up and down, you'll be a little limited on that. But honestly, really depends on you. Just keep in mind about your orientation for iPhones. And I will mention as well, no matter, regardless of the face tracking app you do use though, most face tracking apps are probably going to have pretty much similar quality when it comes to the face tracking quality. I personally use Face Motion 3D when it comes to my iPhone because of the extra settings that it has, but you can literally just use iFacial Mocap or even VTube Studio iOS on Waterdo or VNyan or even VC Face and still have really great face tracking quality. Again, it really depends on you, like what's your budget and all of that, but again, just up to you. I will say, if you want to stay on the free side when it comes to the face tracking app, yes, use VTube Studio iOS for, your VTuber, 3D VTuber stuff. But of course, as well, if you want to get iFacial Mocap, for the extra settings that are in the app, especially if you're going to be using VC-Face, because VC-Face doesn't have built-in Blendshape weight adjustments. So if you're going to be using VC-Face, get iFacial mocap, but if you're going to be using VNeon or Waterdo, you don't have to. You could just stick with VTube Studio iOS for free, because most of the settings for face tracking are already integrated there, and you could just do your tweaking and editing over there. But as for Android, though, I will say the best Android face tracking app is, of course, Meowface when it comes to 3D VTubers. There's also VTube Studio Android, which I'll say Meowface and VTube Studio Android, they have the same tracking quality because they have the same training data. The training data being mocap for face. Mocap for face, all I can say is that they canceled the backend library that supports these apps, because they got into some controversial stuff thinking it was a good idea, and they made the dumbest mistake ever. I'm not gonna keep ranting about it, but all I know is that I hate the devs. So they fricked up badly, therefore Meowface and VTube Studio Android have to suffer. Either way, besides that, I would recommend, if you are a 3D VTuber wanting an Android solution, stick with Meowface, but if Meowface is not working out for you, give VTube Android a try. From my experience with VTube Studio Android, honestly, like, I get less issues with it. However, with Meowface, I get the most customization when it comes to the the face tracking. Plus, also a good thing as well is that with Meowface, you can actually have tongue out and cheek puff, unlike MediaPipe and RTX and the webcam solutions. So if you really value having a tongue tracking and cheek puff, then stick with Meowface when it comes to the Android. Or again, like I said, you can stick with iPhone. Thanks, Apple. But either way, in a nutshell though, when it comes to the device or the type of tracking that you want, whether webcam, iPhone, or Android, it really depends up to you, your tracking style, your budget, and just overall preference, really. If you're someone that wants the best of the best face tracking, I heavily recommend getting an iPhone or maybe an iPad, just any Apple device that has Face ID. But of course, if you're someone that really hates Apple, which I don't blame you if you hate Apple to death, or you just can't afford an iPhone at all, and maybe you want to give face tracking a try, but also have probably the most expressiveness, and also as well, besides expressiveness, also one that doesn't consume your CPU, because keep in mind, when you're using webcam solutions will use your CPU. So if you're someone who's playing Apex Legends or some crazy game like Valorant, I don't know, just you're playing a crazy game and you have to utilize all your resources, I don't recommend a webcam solution. Instead, either go iPhone or Android, so that way the extra CPU power is processed by the phones. So just keep that in mind. So if you hate Apple and you just want expressive face tracking but also the most optimal solution, then go with Android. Best tracking is iPhone. And then if you're someone that just prefer, you don't have an Android and iPhone for face tracking, and maybe you're probably starting off as a VTuber, or maybe just preference that you prefer webcam, especially if you're using XR Animator 3D Post Tracker with webcam hands and full body webcam body tracking, then of course you could probably go with a webcam solution. I'm not gonna get into the webcam body tracking in this, because this is mainly just a face tracking lecture video, not body mocap. That's gonna be a much longer video for a different time. But either way, if you want good a lot of range, you just prefer webcam because it's more affordable, more accessible, and just out of preference, you can be able to use webcam. I'm not, I'll say for me, I personally prefer my iPhone, but of course, there's nothing wrong with giving webcam a try, depending on your case. And like I said, I've seen some people utilize webcam very well, that they can get some really smooth movement. There could be a little jankiness, but I mean, every tracking solution has their own jank. But however you utilize it, it's very important that you do, that you do experiment with the tracking solution of your choice, of what you want. So you can try OpenCFace, MediaPipe, RTX tracking, see which one you prefer the most. If you want MediaPipe, there's that. But if you really want to take it another level, you could try Meow Face, or you could try iPhone. Really depends on what you want. I recommend you could, of course, if you want to do some more research, you could maybe ask your fellow VTuber friends if they, if they can give you some like more direct input regarding what they personally prefer. It's definitely nice to communicate with other VTubers on what face tracking method they use, as they'll give you some inputs on what they think, and you know, overall just really depends on you. Now, besides the kind of tracking solution you are using, lighting is very important when it comes to face tracking. Now, if you have a very dark room or a very bright room, your tracking is probably going to suffer. Just like in life, you need balance, and lighting definitely needs some balance. So you definitely need to make sure that you don't have a too bright, you know, you don't want too bright lighting, but you also don't want it too dark either. For me, I use a light like this $19 freaking light from Amazon. I use this, I mount it on my, my giant monitor, and I just angled the little light because it's very bright for being very cheap. So I just angle it towards my wall so that way it doesn't point directly in my eyes, but also it balances how my, the brightness of my face. And I also on the light settings, I do adjust the warmness of it and the brightness level so that way I can have like a nice balanced lighting, because again, too bright, too much. Just like how you don't want to eat foods that are like crazy hot, or like I don't know. I mean, we eat like some people eat like food that like burn your mouth, and then some people eat cold foods. Like we have ice cream, so it's like honestly, just have a balance when it comes to your light. That's all I can really tell you. Anyways, besides that though, this next part is for my glasses VTubers. Now, as you probably can tell, I wear glasses IRL. I'm actually wearing my glasses right now. And in case you're probably wondering, how are my eyes not derping out? Well, first and foremost, besides your lighting and besides me using an iPhone, because I'm using an iPhone 13, I have anti-glare lenses. So I contacted my eye doctor, which I do need to contact my eye doctor again, for a schedule, for something. But either way, pretty much, I recommend talking to your eye doctor. Like, if you're someone that prefers wearing glasses, but, you have to wear your glasses with your, with doing VTubing and stuff, and you're kind of squeamish when it comes to contact lenses, like I am. I'm squeamish. All I can say is just stick with anti-glare lenses, because the thing is that when you have glare in your lenses, it can actually cause the camera to have a hard time seeing where your eyes are located because the glare is in the way. So anti-glare lenses can actually help ensure that your eyes are seeing much more better, and you are still wearing your glasses. Now, of course, depending on your glasses, I personally stick with like black lenses because it's just, I just prefer it just because it's like not only do I look cute, but also it's just, I don't want to have like glasses that are too close to like my skin tone to cause any like sort of confusion. So it just kind of helps it sort of stand out, I guess. So I'm not sure if glasses colors have anything to do with like the impact on your tracking, but I'd say you could be mindful about it. But either way, I'd say the most important thing is just have anti-glare lenses, and make sure your glasses are not too crazy, like not like crazy thick lenses or something like that. Make sure they're like, thin frames, if that makes sense, so that way it'll see your eyes better, but also you can see better. I hope I am making sense when I'm saying that. And if you're someone that does, you're not squeamish when it comes to contact lenses, and you're perfectly fine with wearing contact lenses, then I would honestly just prefer just wearing that instead. But for me, I'm too squeamish, so I prefer the anti-glare lenses. Yes, it does cost more money, but you know what? It's worth it at the end. Plus, I also look pretty in pictures. So besides that though, another important thing is mounting. Now, honestly, mounting really depends on your IRL setup. Now, for me, because I have a giant monitor, I can only have my iPhone properly mounted on the left side of me, which here, like, now IRL, it's like right here, but if I, to kind of like get you an idea, it's on the left side of me, but my character is like pointing the right, so it's on my left side, but my iPhone's actually right here. So all I can say is just make sure that your iPhone is as center as possible to your face. Of course, there could be an offset because, again, because of my giant monitor, then I have to have it like offset to the left. But I also have to make sure to kind of angle it so it kind of sees most of my face as best as possible. So just keep that in mind. Again, it really depends. If you're able to have, let's say, like a stand or something like that, if you really want, because I saw a VTuber do this. They had like a stand on in their IRL setup where it tracks their face the best, and they're still able to see a little bit of their monitor, but it kind of gets in the way. And that's the thing too that can get into an issue, is that while having your mounting the most center to your face as possible has the best quality of tracking, at the same time, you have to play some Apex Legends. I'm kidding, I don't play that game. But either way, pretty much, you know, you have to do some gaming. You gotta stream, so you can't have the iPhone dead center in your face all the time. So you could probably have it where your iPhone is mounted like under your monitor. That could be good if you want the most center. But of course, make sure you just angle it properly so it can see your face good. You could also have it depending on the size of your monitor. If your monitor is like not giant, like it's like nice and small, then you could have it where your iPhone's probably mounted on the top and it can actually probably give you the best results. But if you have a giant monitor like me, probably not, because I tried that, but I keep looking down a lot, so having it on the top for me ain't it. I always have to have it like at the bottom under my monitor. But I have it on the left side because every time I put it on the center of me, the phone keeps falling. So, yeah, that's just my personal preference. But again, I recommend just experimenting. You may have to do some DIY mounting, or you may have to buy some mounts, like, or buy a mount that is flexible. There's a gooseneck mounts that you could get depending on your table. You could get them, and you could be able to have it where you have a much more flexible control. So instead of buying multiple mounts, you could just buy one and then just change the placement to kind of experiment what is best for you. So again, I recommend just looking into like iPhone mount or phone mounts in general, because, you know, regardless if it's an iPhone or Android, you can do that. Now, if you're a webcam user, then of course you can just literally have it on top of your monitor and call it a day, because for the most part, because of the range of a webcam, honestly, webcams are just better to be on top of a monitor. But iPhones or Androids, they could be a little different. A little, really depends. Now, I will also mention as well, when it comes to Android or iPhones, you can, you know, if you want to, like, let's say move left and right a lot, I recommend having your phone horizontal, because that will allow you to have more range in terms of like the camera. But of course, you know, if you prefer to be like more bouncier, then have it vertical instead. But really, it depends on what you want. And again, just depends on how you angle it. Again, just experiment. Very important. Another thing that's also very important when it comes to face tracking. Oh wait, actually, before I get into this point, I forgot to mention as well full body tracking as well, because I've also had people asking me, Kana, you own a Rococo mocap suit. How the heck do you do your face tracking with that mocap suit? Well, I primarily use a Verdant mocap helmet, which is literally just, to be honest, that mocap helmet is overpriced. You can literally build one. Like, if you know 3D printing, you can honestly just build one yourself under $40, if I'll be honest. But because I don't do 3D printing, I had to... Well, luckily I got my helmet for free. But at the same time, though, all I can say is that a lot of iPhone mounts are overly expensive. They don't have to be overly expensive. You can either DIY one for like under 100 or under 40 bucks, depending on what you have. If you really want to have the most affordable head mount that's like pre-made, I recommend buying the new Rococo head rig. I will say the delivery time is awful, kinda. I hope they fix it, because I'm still waiting on mine and I haven't got updates about it. Hopefully that'll change. But all I can say though is that delivery timing can be kind of iffy with Rococo, but at the same time though, their mocap helmet has the best ventilation and is very lightweight and just honestly better for the head. So I recommend that if you want to keep it affordable. You could get a Verdant mocap helmet if you want. It is $400 though. Rococo is $200. There's also the face cam helmet, which is the one that SpongeBob used in the Super Bowl. That's the $1,250 head rig, which again, I see it like overly expensive, but it can be really nice if you're gonna do a little bit more extreme motion. But I personally recommend, if you're gonna do like, if you're gonna have like your iPhone on your head or something like that with a head mount, I would personally avoid doing extreme dancing. So if you're gonna do a lot of break dancing, just don't have anything on your head, like unless it's like a very stable tracker. But just honestly, just stay safe when you're doing like crazy dancing. All right, just don't hurt yourself, okay? But I will also mention as well, there is a chest mount solution if you really want. Rococo has a chest mount solution, which is like about $120. So it's really nice if you want to be a little bit more affordable, but also it's nice if you don't want to have like weight added to your head. Because I will mention that if you're like, for me, because I have the Verdant mocap helmet, I do sweat a lot just by wearing the helmet after some time, even with blasting my AC. And after removing the helmet, it does, like, I have relief when it comes to like the head weight. So while it's balanced, it doesn't hurt my neck. It does kind of add pressure to my head. So I would just, if you don't like that feeling, now Rococo helmet should be nicer lightweight wise, and so is the face cam one. But if you don't like things being on your head, especially a heavy iPhone, then I would personally recommend just honestly sticking with the chest mount. But also, if you are a female, especially with a big chest, the chest mount will probably not be very comfortable for you. So I would just, for the most part, a head rig would probably be best. Besides that, though, the other thing I also want to mention that will improve your face tracking expressiveness, or again, it really depends on the tracking style that you're going for, is your actual rigging. You can literally have an iPhone 13. You can literally have, the best lighting, the best mounting. But if your actual physical blend shapes are not set up properly, you're gonna look stiff. I'm gonna be honest. Now again, if you like to have like that stiff face tracking style, that's your preference. It really depends. But if you're trying to go for the most crazy expressive face tracking ever, you need to actually hand rig, I'm talking about hand rig your blend shapes. Now, you could argue like, wait, but don't we have Neb tools and Hana tool? They're good tools, especially if you're starting off like with Roid and you just want quick, ARKit Blendshape, like some quick ones. It's nice and, great as a start. But if you really want to go with full-blown expressiveness, you have to touch Blender. You could also use Hana Tool's Blendshape editor. That can also help you out if you really hate Blender to the living heck and you just want to keep it simple. So you could use Hana Tool Blendshape editor if, you'll have to pay extra, of course. So you got Hana tool and then you got the editor tool. You gotta pay separate. I will mention as well, by the way, I personally recommend, if you're gonna stick, from what I've heard, is that if you're gonna stick with the legacy VRM format, stick with the V4 version. But if you're gonna go with VRM 1.0, stick with the V5. I personally just recommend getting the V4. I don't know why they marked it as outdated. I don't understand. I personally just prefer hand rigging my blend shapes just out of preference. You can also look into Neb tools as well. Neb tools may not be as perfect as Hana tool, because Hana tool actually reads the vertex ID or coordinates, I believe. But Neb tools is, honestly, I haven't really checked the technical part when it comes to Neb tools, but all I can say is that Hana tool is probably better in terms of if you want your ARKit blend shape rigged more accurately. Neb tools is nice if you want to give it a try with auto rigging your void model, and I say specifically void model because it's pretty much made primarily for void models. So you could give Neb tools a try, check out their tutorials and stuff like that. But even then, even with these auto rigging tools, even Face It, I still prefer hand rigging my blend shapes. I have more control over the expressiveness. I can, make it as expressive as possible, or I can make it as stiff as possible. So, really depends on you. Depends on what you're comfortable with. So, and besides that, though, Another thing is also your Blendshape settings. If you're using a program like Vnyan or Warudo, I heavily recommend utilizing their Blendshape settings to adjust how much you're blinking, how much your mouse moves and stuff. It may not be perfect depending on how your physical blend shapes are made, but at the same time, if you really want to avoid Blender as much as possible, then if you're a Void user, use HANA tool with the HANA tool editor, the editor tool, and then and then you will use Vnyan or Warudo, and depending on the program of choice, you'll use their settings to adjust the blend shapes to make them more expressive when it comes to how much you're talking or how much you're blinking and stuff, and see if that's best for you. But again, really depends on your comfort level of rigging and what you want to do with your model, and depends on your tracking style. Again, I can't really be like, oh, you have to rig it manually. As much as I prefer rigging manually, if you prefer HANA tool, that's on you. Your preference, it's your VTuber, that's you. Or if you prefer Neb tools, or maybe if you even prefer Faceit. I will mention though, keep in mind, if you're gonna use Faceit, it is a bone-based facial rig, so it's like, I don't recommend it for beginner 3D users. Like, it's more better for more advanced users and probably more realistic models in preference. I mean, you could use it for anime models, but again, I still prefer manual rigging. Another thing as well, I will mention, this is more of an optional choice though, but you can actually use a cooling fan for your iPhone or Android to prevent it from overheating. So if you probably noticed that maybe your iPhone or your phone, the battery is starting to like look like it's bloated, because I used to have that issue with my iPhone, because I was like wondering why my iPhone kept falling off from its mount, and it was because the battery was bloating. So I recommend, if you want to make your phone or your iPhone or your Android last longer, a cooling fan will be really nice. I don't care what that technician from because I remember when I was trying to get my battery fixed, I asked them about cooling fan. They said, "Oh, you can't use a cooling fan on an iPhone." I'm like, watch. Well, they can't watch me now, but I actually have a cooling fan on my iPhone. It's been doing wonders. So, yeah, prove them wrong. But either way, you can use a cooling fan. You can actually get one from Amazon. That's actually where I got mine, and you could be able to utilize it so you can make your iPhone battery last much longer, and that way you can save the cost when it comes to replacing the battery if it overheats and bloats the battery. So better in the long run. But again, it's optional. You don't have to get one, but really up to you. And besides that though, that's pretty much, for the most part, most of the face tracking related advice that I can give you. And for the most part, it just really depends on what you're comfortable with, what do you want with your tracking, what's your budget, and much more factors. And it's just honestly just trial and error. You're gonna probably have times where your tracking will probably heck up, it'll look weird. You may have some lagging issues. Oh yeah, speaking of which, internet is also very important if you're going to be using an iPhone or an Android. So keep that in mind, that if you're going to use Android or iPhone, your internet does heavily matter when it comes to getting the tracking to be as smooth as possible. I mean, you don't need to get crazy good internet. You just need to have decent internet. But if you're using webcam, you only have to worry about having good PC specs in order to handle the webcam. Otherwise, if you're a potato PC and you have bad Wi-Fi, then you're probably gonna have very stuttery tracking. So yeah, just keep that in mind as well. But other than that, those are pretty much most of the advice I can give you. And again, it really depends on your specific case when it comes to face tracking overall. Really just depends. A lot of factors. As you can literally tell by all the randomness I said, this is literally a 30-minute video. Holy heck. But I gave you a lot of information regarding face tracking stuff, and I hope that you can utilize this advice that I've given you, so that way you can improve your face tracking, or even whether improve or figure out what tracking style you really are aiming for, whether it's stiff or most expressive. Because again, depending on your style of tracking really depends on what the heck you want. Again, everyone is different, and don't be rude to someone if they prefer stiff tracking. I will drop kick you with a canary. Anyways though, besides that, if you have any other question regarding face tracking stuff, I do have a Discord server where I always, I'm always around to answer questions, especially if you're someone who tends to always ask questions very regularly about 3D stuff. Join the Discord server. Honestly, I'm there. You can go to the help center there, and I'm happy to help you out. But of course, if you need like a quick question, you have a quick question you want me to answer, please comment it down on YouTube and I will do my best to answer as soon as possible. Other than that though, I hope you guys do have a lovely day. And I will also mention as well, by the way, for a different video, we'll talk about body-related mocap stuff. And this video is not talking about the, differences in VTuber programs. Again, really depends on you. But other than that, though, hope you guys have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye! And in case you're wondering, I'm using a Leap Motion V2, by the way, in case you're wondering what I'm using for hand tracking. But bye-bye! Thank you to all my Snowflake members. In case you don't know, I have YouTube membership, so if you want to further support this channel and what I do, then feel free to join the Snowflake members. Otherwise though, just your support means so much to me, and I appreciate every ounce of it. Either way though, with that being said though, hey goodbye everyone! I hope to see you guys next time, okay? Bye bye!